Bueno, ahí se está cargando la gente, ahí están ingresando. Ta, 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 tam. Vamos a esperar un minuto, así termina de ingresar la gente que está por ahí. People are coming in. So.
Great.
Just gonna stand here, smile awkwardly.
Ok, bueno, now we are going to start. Hola a todos, ¿cómo están? Yo soy Teti, el editor de Floqq, que es el sello de ficción juvenil de Ediciones Urano, y hoy tenemos un evento súper especial en Floqq, nuestra plataforma de cursos online. Tenemos a dos personas que nos hacen muy feliz de tener acá con nosotros, que son Jenni Hendrix y Caplan, que son los autores de este libro que ven por acá, que se llama Unpregnant, que lo publicamos el año pasado. Así que vamos a charlar un poco de lo que fue el proceso creativo de este libro, y también que nos cuenten un poco de la película, que sé que es algo que todos están súper entusiasmados por saber qué va a pasar con la adaptación de este libro, que ya está ahí casi lista. Así que ahora voy a empezar a hablar en inglés. Este video después lo van a poder encontrar con subtítulos en español, pero toda esta charla va a ser en inglés. Todos ustedes pueden mandar preguntas, que yo las voy a estar viendo acá en una ventana de chat que tengo, y se las voy a estar haciendo a los autores, así que pueden mandarlas en inglés o en español, no hay problema, y yo las voy a estar leyendo y haciéndole las preguntas a los autores. Now, guys, I'm going to go to the English side. First of all, for taking the time to make this live webinar.
Thanks. We're
Thanks
so
for
happy
having
to be
us.
here. Yeah.
Okay, guys, can you tell us a little bit about each of you? Like a short introduction?
Okay. I'll go first. I'm
Go for
Jenni Hendrix, and Ted and I have been writing for many years together. My background is in television writing for the most part. My first professional writing job was on How I Met Your Mother for a number of years. And yeah, and since then, Ted and I have written movies together and now books too.
Yeah, again, I'm Ted, as you know. I've been in the film business for 25 years. Started in post-production doing sound effects and worked my way into the music business end of it. And have worked on, I don't know, too many movies, but some of the ones that you may have heard of, the Deadpool franchise, Logan, The Maze Runner, The Hate U Give. Working with composers and directors, creating the soundtracks for those movies. And while doing that, also writing with Jenni. We've been writing, obviously said, for years. We actually met through post-production because her husband works in post-production, and I met him through that. And then we started, we found out that we were both also writing, so we thought we'd give it a go working together, and that worked out fairly well for us, and we kept writing and writing, writing till Unpregnant came out, and it's been exciting seeing it come into the world like this, especially now doing an international interview. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. Crazy.
These are very interesting backgrounds. Can you tell us, how was the process of going from that background to writing the book that probably is like totally different? How do you feel about that?
Right? Because most of all of our writing education is all in screenwriting. And the thing about Unpregnant was we started writing it as a script originally back in 2012, I believe. I was driving home from work on How I Met Your Mother, listening to the news, and then a report came on about abortion rights in South Dakota, which is in the middle of the country, and saying how they were going to restrict them even further. And people were going to have to drive hundreds of miles and wait 3 days at minimum to get this procedure done. And I was sitting there thinking, God, who do you take with you? You can't go alone. What happens? What could happen on the road on this drive? Who would be the worst person you'd have to take with you? And by the time I got home from my commute, I was texting Ted. I'm like, Ted, I know what our next screenplay is going to be. We're going to write an abortion road trip story, and it's going to be funny.
Cool.
And I was like, no brainer. Obviously, this is such an easy, you know, obviously it was a little, I still had to get my head around it for a while because, you know, the subject is, especially in 2012, was not broached in publishing and movies anywhere. So we really had to find a way in that I thought, okay, if we pull this off, people are going to have to, you know, have to read it or see it or whatever we develop. And once we found kind of a tone of it, I think we knew we had something. And so it was very exciting.
Well, we had something, but then we showed it to our agents.
Hey.
And then to some producers around town, and they're like, "Oh no one's gonna make this movie. No one can do this. This like they're like maybe you can make it for like a couple $100,000 and put it on the festival circuit," which we were like, "Okay, we'll try that." Right. We tried it for a little bit, but I was super pregnant at the time, and so we couldn't like making a movie like by yourself is really hard. So. Yeah. We put a pin in that basically, and then I had my second kid. And then while I was on maternity leave, I'm like, this is a good story. This is like a few years later, like, and this is a good story. I still believe in this story. Hollywood wouldn't buy it, but what if we tried to turn it into a book? Which is insane because we'd never actually tried to write a book before, but you know, I was like, I just emailed Ted, and Ted was like, okay, you can try that. So I was sitting there like with like an infant, like typing away, trying to turn this into a book. And you know, it took a while because I was writing like in between taking care of two kids and like life and everything. But eventually we got a draft together, and then we sent it out, and like slush pile. Like we didn't have a literary agent. So our agent, Brianne Johnson, found it in her slush pile, and she like got back to us almost right away. We had a very short like querying period, and then within a month of her like deciding to represent us, we were out to all the publishers, and there was like a 6-way auction, and then it sold, and then almost immediately the movie rights sold, and
it was all pretty quick.
Circle. It was crazy.
It was crazy. It was like two Bologna's book fair ago. I remember that everyone was talking about the Unpregnant book. You know, it was crazy too. Overseas, very, very soon. It was crazy. Yeah. I mean, I think that in America maybe it's an easier issue to sell, you know, but maybe in some countries of Europe, even in Latin America, it could be tricky, but it sold very fast. I remember that moment. Everyone was talking about even a book, you know.
Well, it was crazy because it was definitely a different time. Yeah. You know, it was the times from when we had started writing it to when the book was out to publishers, the world had changed greatly. You know, we suddenly had in America, we had the Me Too movement, we had Donald Trump as president, and these stories suddenly took on an urgency that honestly in 2012, the world didn't see. And so it took a period of time for the world to catch up to Unpregnant, it seems. And then when they did, it was all systems go.
Yeah.
Guys, and were you worried about the topic of the book and thinking in a YA audience, or you just do it like freely, you know, without pressure?
Well, I mean, part of it is we started as a movie, right, which doesn't have really a distinction between YA and adult as much as in the publishing industry. So, I mean, we were telling a story, and the most impactful way to tell this story was with teenagers, because that's where the laws are most restrictive also in our country. So we didn't necessarily intend just a teenage audience for this, and so we didn't like adjust or write down. We just wrote the story as we thought it should be in the most authentic way we could with these characters.
And the YA market was actually kind of, I mean, in some ways it's a blessing, you know. And again, we wrote it without that in mind. The way that a movie like Juno back in the day was written as just a general audience's movie, or whoever, you know, a good movie that anybody would go see. But having this specific market for this story kind of then found an audience that I think was even more needed for the story. that it didn't intend at the beginning, but then I think has been a great place for it to live, to find a young audience who's excited about it, and to tell the story to people who it actually is affecting.
Okay, here I have one question from Amparo. She wants to know how important was coordination and understanding one another when writing the book or the script.
Well, so my background again is television. So in a television writing environment, there's 10 people in a room all shouting at each other about what they think the story should be and what the dialogue should be. So going down to just one person to have to coordinate with was actually like much simpler and nicer. But we have a very specific, long drawn out writing process that we work on to eliminate arguments.
Yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time what we call breaking the story to begin with, sitting together and really talking out the entire story so that we're on the same page. There isn't, we can't ever be writing two separate stories, or it will never work. So we get very much into an outline. We're very much into structure, agreeing on the characters and the basic idea of the project. And then we work in layers. So you start with an outline. You start with the basic kind of synopsis.
Save the Cat.
And Save the Cat is a great model for that. And it's a book. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a screenwriting structure book. But it allows us now too. And they have it for novels. Yes. So it allows you to have that. So it allows us to work in a kind of a very kind of deliberative process of outline. Then working in screenplay form first allows us to write scenes and scenarios and dialogue without having to get bogged down in literary descriptions, so that we can at least agree on this is the whole story. So we have a very deep outline to start with, and then we can hand off to each other and allow us to write the prose separately, which then we hand back and forth to each other and adjust and revise as we go. And I think part of the reason why it's worked between us is that neither of us are super precious. We usually, if an idea is improved, we both agree it's improved. It's rare that we, get stuck on something. I think it's better. You think it's like, we mostly see eye to eye, and that's part of the magic. When you have the same sensibility, it's easier to agree on things. If we had different sensibilities, it would be impossible.
And we're very much plotters. Like when we talk about our outline, it's about a 15-page single-spaced document that's like 20,000 words, and then we turn it into like a 200-page screenplay before we start with dividing it up and writing it into the book. So it's very detailed and slow before we actually get to our first draft.
Yeah, and we tend not to go on random. What's that?
No, that it was an interesting experience. I mean, it's like an atypical way of writing a book, but it's very cool. I mean, how do you manage to do it together? So.
Yeah, I think we hear of writers, and I think there are a lot of brilliant writers who open up a document and start writing, and they can create a magical, amazing, unexpected world. And I love that they do it. It scares the hell out of us. To not know where we're going and not agree upon that, because it could you never know how you're going to get through it. And so, since I think we're both a little risk averse on that front, we like to know where we're at, what we're getting to, and know what I think that's a big part of it, is knowing what we want to say and where we're going with the story. That guides the principle of the project from the beginning.
Yeah, we decide why we want to tell the story, and then we build the story about like what we're trying to say, or why does this story need to be told. And that's like the foundation that we build the outline on and keep going. So
that makes sense. Guys, and which are the main differences between the industry where you work and the publishing industry, which has like very specific and about defining a cover that all the readers think, oh, it's a very easy task to define a cover, but many people is involved in that decision, so which are the differences, and how did the publishing industry?
The publishing industry, again, for us, the publishing industry is so enthusiastic and flexible and encouraging in a way that the film industry is not.
In the publishing industry, as writers, in the publishing industry, the book is the final product. It's what you're working towards. The words are important. The writer is important. In the film industry, in the features more so than TV, but the writer is just one step in a very collaborative process to create a story. So the writer, we can control so much more in the books than we will ever be able to control on screen. So it's very satisfying.
Yes, the kind of enthusiasm and the kind of respect of writing itself, you know, and wanting to see our vision forward is definitely a publishing industry attitude. The film industry, like you're saying with the cover, where you have a lot of people coming in on the cover, which we're not, you know, we get the cover and we work back and forth, but if you deal with a script at a studio level, you're dealing with the script on that level where you have 4, 5, 6 people all having their different thoughts and notes. And so you're trying to address all of that, which is a lot more complicated because with a book, it's mostly the editor. You're dealing one-on-one with somebody and they may be going up through the chain, but you're not getting that crossfire as often, at least in our experience.
Right.
Do you usually read YA fiction or something, or you are more focused on the screen stuff?
I read all over the place. I read YA, fantasy, sci-fi. I read almost constantly. So, I mean, my first love with books before I went to film school and everything, I just like stories a lot. I read comic books. I, watch movies, read books all the time. Yeah, so I read YA. I'm trying to think. I just finished Bonds of Brass, which was super fun, space adventure with some romance. What else? Liz Lawson's The Lucky Ones was a contemporary, obviously much more serious subject, 2 people on the opposite side of a school shooting. But yeah, I read, again, I like and I said in our writing, where I don't, we didn't write for teenagers. I don't really differentiate, the story should be about teenagers, it's a good story, I'm going to read it.
Yeah. No, I Jenny and I have, I tend to read more nonfiction, more literary. I mean, I tend to be in that category of stuff. Yeah, I've started reading more YA. Obviously, since we started writing, I found some amazing writers that I didn't know about. So actually, this experience has been great for me because it's opened my eyes to a world that I was not engaged in before that. So that's been really fun. And I have a 13-year-old son, so it's been great to kind of find it out with him. He and I read together. I read stories to him. We're still engaged in kind of discovering literature, which is a great way to find it.
That's very cool. Guys, and now we're going to talk about something that everyone is very enthusiastic about. That is the adaptation of the book. What can you tell us about that?
The movie, what can we say? I mean, so they optioned the movie almost as soon as we sold the book. So the process started a few years ago, and by the time the book came out in September, they were shooting the movie in New Mexico a month later, I think.
So we did we were hired to write the screenplay on it. Obviously, we wrote the original script and then the book, and then so we did adapt it into a screenplay. And you make adjustments for a movie, and then there's collaborative effort with the producers, and it's really an exciting process because it's its own living thing on besides.
Right.
It's different than the book, and you want to lean into things differently in a movie than you do as a book. But one of the things that's been amazing about it, that I think has been shocking to some people, is they still want to tell the same story. They still want to tell a story about 2 girls driving 1,000 miles to get an abortion, and she, it's that never changed, even though there was always fear that oh, now you're making a movie, there's bigger names involved, there's a lot of money involved, they might want to soften the message, but they were as passionate about what it was about as we were.
Yeah.
So there are major changes from the book to the movie?
Yes, there's some changes. Part of it again is because like a book is its own thing and a movie is it's a visual story. So we had to make other things bigger and more visual and more interesting to look at, more actiony in some places.
And like a simple thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
A simple a simple thing that you'd want to do in a movie that we had to do in the movie versus the book. It's a simple thing, but it's an adjustment. Is that in a movie, you know, you want, like Jenny's saying, you want to keep it visual, and a lot of the book takes place inside the car. So there was an attempt to kind of get out of the car a little bit more and like show the world a little more, so that it wasn't just two girls driving in a car the whole time. And that's one of the challenges. How do you keep the same story and just move it outside a little bit, or you know, just open up the world a way in which you're really utilizing the visual medium rather than just the you know, the words, for lack of a better word.
Right, because I mean, it's not like two girls in a car. When you think about it, if you're going to watch two people sit in a car for 2 hours, that's not going to look very interesting. So the challenge is to get the same story out and have these characters go through the same story arc and have the same feelings and grow in the same way. But we have to do it in a slightly different setting to make sure that, you know, there's something to look at.
And there's also the aspect of things that, you know, a book, especially, you know, Unpregnant's written in the first person. So you're only seeing it through Veronica's eyes. But a movie by nature, for the most part, even though you can have voiceover, you can have it be from a character's perspective, is a third person experience. And so you do frame things a bit differently because you're now seeing it from the outside world rather than just from inside somebody's head. And that just leads you to make some different choices to still get the same meaning, but expressing it in a different way.
It's a fun challenge as writers to take an idea that we have and then rework it to tell it in a different way without losing the integrity of the story. So I still, as much as we enjoy writing the books, it's fun to write the screenplays too.
Yeah, that must be very fun. Guys, here I have another question. Facundo wants to know, what can you tell us about the casting, the cast of the movie? Were you involved in that? Who was the process?
We have no involvement in like the cast, as I'm sure many authors like say. We get no say in it. But oh my God, the cast that they pulled together for this movie is insane. Haley Lou Richardson from 5 Feet Apart is Veronica, and Barbie Ferreira from Euphoria is Bailey, and they are magical together. We've seen the movie at this point, though we can't really like say. But they are great. They just embody the characters so well. And then, are there any other cast members?
And there's a bunch of, there's, I think they've announced the other ones. I think
everyone,
Breckin Meyer, right? It's Breckin Meyer and Giancarlo Stanton, right? Esposito, sorry, Esposito. I always get his last name wrong. No, there's a great supporting cast, again, beyond our kind of expectations of what we could actually pull off. So it really elevates the project. They're amazing. We actually did get to go to set. We met, you know, Barbie and Haley Lou, and they're amazing. They were so excited about the project, and we couldn't be more happy with them.
Guys, and do you think that we are near to see some poster or some advance of the movie? Maybe in that
we've been curious ourselves. I know that soon-ish, I would expect something hopefully over this summer. But the HBO Max, which is the platform that the movie will be on, has not launched yet. It launches next week, I think. Like May 27th is when the platform will be available. So once they launch the platform, I'd expect that we'll start to see more visuals from the movie. I mean, we've seen the promotional shots, so we know they exist and they're really cool.
Okay, you know everything.
Yeah, no, I think if
the readers will try to go to your computer to check all the stuff.
I think that, you know, the COVID situation has pushed back what we would have already been in some sort of press at this point. But we've talked to the director. Everything, all systems are go, and HBO Max is super excited about the project. So we know we're going to get a good push, and you're going to see stuff soon.
We hope so. Let me check here. Guys, I'm going back to the book specifically. How was the reception for one side with booksellers, with critics, and on the other side with the readers by themselves about the topic? Which was that experience?
I'll tell you from the beginning, when we turned in the manuscript, Jenny and I always joke. She's like, "Well, we're not going to get a star from Kirkus. We're not going to get, this isn't that book. They're going to hit the subject matter or whatever." And then slowly they started coming in, and we got a star review from, they started like the official reception from critics was shockingly good. From we thought, oh, they're not going to like the irreverence or this, the subject matter is difficult, whatever. But we
used
like,
a lot of bad
over.
words. Yeah.
Yes.
My mom doesn't approve of So
yeah, we were just bowled over by the critical reception. Maybe you could speak to the fan or the readers, Jenny.
I mean, the readers, everyone, like, for the most part, it's been like really positive, and people have come up and told us how much the book means. We've gotten a lot of personal stories about how some of the things in this book have happened to the readers, so we know it's resonating with people. Not everyone has been kind. For some reason, they just found we've had a few weekends or things where my Instagram got a little crowded with some comments, but it's been for the most part pretty good. Like, there hasn't been we haven't gotten too many angry yelling people at us.
And to be fair, I mean, I can speak for myself, I think Jenny as well. We try to not do a deep dive on comments and reviews on the internet.
Yeah.
That's just a way to ruin your day. So I'm sure there's some terrible things out there. We don't go looking for them. It's a way to keep your sanity. Is just keep the positive coming. Look at the nice things that come in, and keep working.
Okay, and now going to some aspect that is very from the publishing industry and very from the authors. How was the experience of being in touch with readers around the world? I mean, the book has been published in many languages. How is the experience of being in your house and now being seen by the audience in a way? Because maybe in the movie, as you said, Jenny, there are many people involved, but here you are like the face of the book, and
right.
How the experience of having people around the world reading something that you wrote,
Like, it's insane. It's because you're all in your little room and you're just like typing away, and you just have this world in your head, and then suddenly other people are experiencing this world and story that you created, like, that you're never going to meet and you'll never talk to, but yet your book has affected them in some way or another. And it's crazy to think about. It makes me a little panicked.
I know, it's the living in a time of social media, which oftentimes can give you incredible anxiety. It has actually been, I mean, seeing people post the covers from different countries, and it just blows your mind. You really can't get your head around the idea that there's just people all around the world reading the little book that we wrote in our, in our rooms. It's mind-boggling. So I don't think that either of us have really got our head around it. It's not like we've traveled to somewhere and met the people who've read, the fans of the book. You just see little postings here and there. You get an email here and there, or you talk to a publisher and you imagine this I think it's kind of unimaginable that there's we get the foreign copies, as you know. And just reading that it's in another language is mind-blowing to us. Somebody spent time translating.
Right. Our favorite thing, we like to go to the page, one of the pages with like the most curse words on it, and then we try to figure out how to say bad words in a bunch of different languages. Like, how do you translate this?
We've learned a lot.
We've learned a lot. We've learned how to say bad words in many languages.
I think that a big challenge to translate Unpregnant is the colloquial stuff that the book have,
Yeah.
We have Latin America, that each country in Latin America has a different colloquial way of speaking.
Yes.
Spain, that is totally different from Latin America. So it was like a very tricky for the translator, to pick up like the right word that more or less works in all the territories. And same for the title. For us, it was like, we use desembarazada. Desembarazada was like the word feels weird, you know. And I think
Yeah.
that for the way I is Unpregnant is very transparent, you know, and very shocking. And on the other side, for the booksellers or people that can be like against the topic, I think they will be happier with the title like Unpregnant on the table instead of Desembarazada. So you work with everyone. You need to have everyone more or less happy with the book. Here I have a question from Lydia. Along the way, have your ideas about certain topics, about being different? How do you tackle those challenges? I am trying to understand. Yeah. I mean, did you get the question? I think that the question, yeah.
How our experience of being different has been affected by writing the book, or like understanding somebody who's doing something different? Yeah.
About different point of view of each view. I think that is what she means. Yeah.
I mean, part like it's on the topic of like abortion. In this case, I was raised very Catholic, so I'm familiar with both sides of people's points of view on this topic. But I think the important thing with books is that you get a wide experience on different experiences, different worlds, different people's points of view. And that's the beauty of books, is that you're going to be able to go into someone else's head and understand what they're going through. And I think it's important that there's a wide variety of stories out there from different voices, different perspectives, because ultimately that's what's going to make people more understanding and compassionate towards each other. And as a
older man, I'm writing a story about a young woman, and so I'm experiencing something I have not lived, right? And so working with Jenni and exploring the topic gives you another level of compassion towards somebody who's very different than my experience, right? So you see them going through, and you're really working through what they could be going through. That's something that I would never have to go through. Really gives you a greater sense of compassion, and I highly recommend writing, or experiencing and really delving into other perspectives through writing, because it really it'll open up your mind, and it'll give you a sense of compassion that I think otherwise is sometimes hard to come by.
Okay, guys, now before going ahead with more questions, I want to make a little game that I like doing in live interviews. I will ask you, like, to each of you, I will mention or who is the question, like a short question, or you need to choose between two things, but you don't have to think. It's like the first things that comes to your mind, you need to express. So I will start with Jenni. Okay.
I'm excited. I'm very excited about this.
This is a typical question that everyone asks: Taylor Swift or Katy Perry?
Oh, well, I don't know. I gotta go with Swift. I think Ted's laughing at me because he knows that like I'm mainly a like musical theater, like I'm terrible with music. He's the music guy. I'm gonna go Taylor Swift.
Okay, Ted, now you say Taylor or Katy Perry.
Oh, I live with Taylor Swift in my house all day. What do you mean? She's my go-to. I got a young girl living here, so I can do it all. The whole catalog.
You are a big fan there.
Big fan. We almost went to get tickets. Unfortunately, her show was canceled, but I'd take her. I love her.
Okay, Ted, someone that inspires you.
Someone who what?
Who is an inspiration for you?
Oh, someone who inspires me. That's a good question. There are so many easy ones, and then oh well, look, this will be good. I mean, I'm gonna say my wife. How about that? My wife.
Oh, that's such a cop out.
Oh, come on. I'm but no, so because we live very different. I'm writing entertainment. She works in a very socially conscious field, and so seeing her pursue things that don't often get the acclaim or the public acceptance, but working through very difficult things. She works in diversity and inclusion. She's really working hard to work with racial disparity, that kind of stuff, living with it, as opposed to I could pick somebody outside of my house, obviously, that'd be easier. But when you live with it, you see how hard it is to persevere in it. It's inspiring to see.
Okay. Jenni, a place in the world.
A place in the world? Oh my God.
Only one.
One? Right now, Maui, Hawaii, because I'm not going to go there for a long time, and I really just want a vacation and lay on the beach with a nice Mai Tai.
Ted, a favorite movie?
A favorite movie? Oh, that's a good question. Favorite movie? Well, I'm gonna mention the movie that Jenni knows is like
I know it's coming.
I don't know if it's my favorite movie, but it's definitely the movie that has influenced me, probably because I saw it young, and it definitely influenced my thoughts on Unpregnant when we wrote it. It's a Martin Scorsese movie called After Hours. Jenni, I don't think, still has seen it. It's a crazy one night in New York movie that I saw when I was, a young kid, but probably too young. And it stuck with me because of its manic insanity. There's a kind of like crazed, probably drug-fueled insanity to it. But I highly recommend it as a picture of New York before it got too expensive to be artistic. So certainly, it was the old Soho artsy downtown scene, and it's a very unique movie, but it stuck with me forever.
Good answer, good answer. Jenni, a favorite book?
Oh,
I mean, favorite in terms of a book that marked your life, like as a reader.
That's so hard. I mean, that's so hard. Because I'm trying to think of like I remember in third grade, my first real experience with fantasy, which is like my first love of reading, was with the Dark is Rising series. And I remember just reading those books over and over to the point where I could quote large parts of them to people who were not at all interested in hearing about the intricacies of the plot of The Dark is Rising. Also, like Tolkien, was a huge influence early on. Neil Gaiman, the Sandman comics were big as I got older. Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash and Diamond Age were really important. I don't contemporary. Clearly, is not a touchstone for me. I like big, dramatic stories. Ted knows, because I'll sit there and be like, "Can we add a chase scene to this, or a shark?" So.
Okay, next one. This one is for both of you, but Ted needs to start because Jenni needs some time to think about it. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh my God, where do I see myself in 5 years? Well, with the current world, I'm really hoping it's all just as close to this as possible. In 5 years, I really hope that, look, okay, I'll give you my fantasy answer, which is I always want to live by the ocean. So if I can be writing by the ocean at some point, and we're working on the 4th novel and the 5th screenplay, and I can go outside and smell some sea air, I'm pretty happy.
I mean, right? I'm 5 years. I hope we're out of the house. It's been 60 something days, and really that's all I'm holding on to right now, is that we can go out of the house and go to restaurants and hang out with our friends again. But I mean, yeah, I want to the ocean sounds good, Ted. If you want to get some houses by the ocean, then we can keep writing, because writing is so much I'm so happy that this can be our job, because it's so much fun to do just as a process. I just really enjoy the process of writing. So if I can continue to get paid for doing something that I'm going to do anyway, is just delightful.
Jenni, do you have some author that you dream about writing a book with? I would write a book with J.K. Rowling or some or write to some.
I would be so embarrassed to attempt to write with anyone that I admire. That is, because I'm not going to say Neil Gaiman, because I just sit there embarrassed and quiet to suggest anything.
Hold on, are you saying I'm not like Neil Gaiman? I'm a little confused. I think I consider myself Neil Gaiman-esque.
Yeah.
Have the new Neil Gaiman there.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I can't, like, it would be, God, I mean, and then I'd have to ditch Ted. So we'd really be a whole discussion about, like,
hey,
who'd we work
I think
with.
if Neil Gaiman wants to write a book with you, it's fine. That's totally fair game. you're free to, JK calls, take it, for God's sake.
All right, fair enough. Neil Gaiman or JK calls, I'll push you aside for a bit.
I like it.
I do that.
I'm gonna give you a different kind of answer. You know, I work in music, and funny enough, my favorite. So this would be like a collaborative person. I love music producers, and one of my favorite music producers is this guy Brian Eno, who you probably have heard of. He produced tons of classic albums, and his process of getting creativity out of people is so unique and insightful that I would love to work on something with him. A book, sure, let's do it. And he's always great at finding a way to bring out the essence of what you're trying to do. So sure, I'll take a shared book credit with Brian Eno any day of the week.
Cool, that's cool. Guys, now tell me which was the part that you enjoy the most working with each other.
I like it when we both make each other laugh, because then we know that what we're writing is good. Like at the point when we're working out a story and we're just batting it around, we haven't really figured out anything, and then suddenly we can start spitting out bits of dialogue and making jokes, and it starts to go back and forth really fast. Then I'm like, oh, okay, we are onto something, and this story will probably work. So yeah, once we make each other laugh, then I know that our stories got a good chance of going somewhere. Ted, what are you gonna say?
What am I gonna say? I was always gonna say the best point is when we finish a draft.
Yeah, I do it.
Come on. You get through a draft, like there's always a point in the project where you're like, is this gonna work? Is this gonna work? I'm not sure this is gonna work. I'm not. And then there's always one day where you look at it and go, oh, I think this might actually work. This is holding together, and it doesn't. It always happens at a different time in each project.
Yeah, and sometimes at different points with each of us, because I'll be like, no, it works, and you're like, I don't think it works. No, it works. It's gonna work. We just have to keep going. I don't know. I think we might just not be a book.
That's true. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And then I forget how hard it is, because at the end of the writing process, I'm like, oh, that was easy. That was fine. And then Ted's like, what are you talking about?
Oh my God.
Like, we just wrote it.
On Unpregnant, you know, we finished Unpregnant, we started something else, and I had to keep bringing out early pages of Unpregnant to go, no. You thought Unpregnant was just like a straight line from start to finish. That took us forever to kind of find the story, to find the angle on it. We have all these early drafts that are not what's in the book, and I think it's really important to remember. It's really important to remember that, because when you're stuck in the weeds and you think it's never going to work, having an example of something that was really, truly hard to do that you got over and figuring it out is, I think, the best kind of like representation of, oh, just persevere, keep going, you'll find it.
Okay, now I want you, Jenni, to describe Veronica in 3 words, and Ted to describe Bailey in 3 words.
I'm like, uptight. Anxious and self-centered. Oh, poor Veronica. I do love her. I love her. She has some work to do.
Yeah, you know. I mean, I would say Bailey would be unfiltered is definitely a word that we like to use with her. She's got a little bit of anger, you know, angry, and you know, and a bit insecure. Like those are her 3.
Okay, perfect. Now we are going to see some of the readers' questions. Let me check which is the last that I read here. Ruby says, we know abortion is a delicate subject for Mexican society. How do you consider the acceptance of your book in Mexico? Okay, maybe extremely specific. I will change her question a little. from the publishing side, I can tell you, Ruby, that the book was very well received in Mexico, actually. People, I was in the Guadalajara Book Fair last year when we launched the book, and people were very receptive, even the parents, you know, so at that point, we are very happy. And guys, did you have any feedback from Mexican readers, something like that, or no?
I mean, we've gotten some, yeah, we've gotten some feedback from Mexican readers that was positive. And like, again, we wrote it from a very like American perspective because we're dealing with American laws and everything, but it's because it's such a complicated subject that spans the globe. I'm glad it is reaching other countries. And also, like I said, I grew up Catholic, so I'm familiar at least with the Catholic viewpoint on abortion. And certainly how my family feels. So I don't know. I hope that it's reaching Mexican readers.
Yeah, it's especially because it's such a specific, you know, we're dealing with our specific laws, and this is very specific about how far you have to go specifically from one place to another. In the US, I think, you know, I think we're so heartened to see that translated, that it not only it spoke to people who were in a situation that is sometimes more restrictive, or oftentimes more restrictive. Right. And so even though this feels restrictive to us in the States, we're glad that this is giving voice to people whose restrictions are even more cumbersome.
Yes.
Okay, and I think that you both also answered the question of Gloria that she asked. Are themes you talk about in the book more prevalent in the US than elsewhere, Latin America, for example, or are they relevant everywhere? That is more
I think
or less
the big theme of the book that I think is relevant everywhere, and I think why and the thing that we latched onto and got really excited about the book being about was the kind of reducing stigma and taking away the shame from decisions that should be personal and that shouldn't be burdened with these judgments. I think that's a universal. It's obviously specific to the abortion issue. It could be broadened out to other issues. You know, in the book, Veronica is presenting a persona because she is afraid of being who she is. And I think the idea of presenting who you are and not being afraid of that is a universal theme, in addition to the abortion angle on it.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's hard. And the other thing is that there is the universal story about friendship that we would hope would resonate no matter where you are in the world, about finding a friend and what it means to be a true friend, that doesn't necessarily touch on the abortion story, but can still be a universal story, even if you don't have a personal experience with abortion.
Okay, I think that you have a point there. What I told the booksellers and librarians here was, I mean, in spite of you can be in favor or against abortion, but no one can say that abortion doesn't exist. I mean, in Latin America and Argentina, abortion is a very relevant issue. There are people dying because of illegal abortion, and it's something that exists. You can be in favor or against, but it's something real, you know? And I think that is the key point, how you talk about abortion. It's about decision, it's about being yourself. So if there is some parents watching this and worry about, should my kids read the book? What I think that is important about this book, first is about friendship, about being true to yourself, and then you can bring the discussion to the table. You know, you can bring the book and discuss with your kids about what they think and to construct an answer about that. I think that it's like very key.
And the book is very much about that because, you know, this is a person, Veronica is in a situation where she can't really discuss this with her parents. And if nothing else, it highlights the need for, you know, acceptance in being a parent and listening to your kid. And you want them to be able to come to you and have that discussion. And in Veronica's case, she wasn't able to. So it made the thing much more complicated. I mean, had she been able to go to her mom and felt accepted in that decision, I think she could have made different choices that would still result the same way, but maybe less harrowing, maybe less cows, maybe less ferrets and truck stop strippers.
And truck stop strippers. Maybe, maybe a few less wandering through, you know, the scrub and ending up on train tracks screaming into the sky. But so, And books, growing up, books were the main way my mother and I communicated difficult topics to each other. So I think books are great.
Yeah.
Slide a book over. Let's talk.
That's great.
That's a good idea, guys. And then I have another question of Cindy from Colombia. Hi everyone, Cindy from Colombia here. Do you guys think that there is an impossible topic to write about in YA literature? If so, which one?
An impossible
I
topic.
mean,
I want to hear your answer, please.
I don't think there's an impossible topic to talk about in YA.
No. Uh-oh. I lost you. You there? I lost the audio. Oh. Is it my audio? Can you hear me, Leo?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, no Jenny.
Oh, Jenny's earbuds died. Oh, now we can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Earbuds died. Sorry.
Yeah, I think in general, I mean, look, this is a good topic for kind of what we get excited about, is that the thing that seems impossible, and this certainly seemed impossible when we started writing it, is what's exciting about it. So the thing that's impossible, if you can find a way into it, you can find a tone and an angle into the story, then you create something really special, and people are excited about it because they didn't think it could be broached, which is what's partly great about comedy. If you write, comedy allows things to be, less scary. It lets you approach things and to take a little of the danger out of them. And they also make people nervous and laugh. When you say something that's not supposed to be said, you get a reaction that if you're playing in safe territory, you're not going to get. So I would never say there's an impossible topic. I certainly think there's dangers to approaching certain topics, and if approached badly, could go badly for somebody.
Right.
But
that's where you are the person who should be telling this story is an important part of the process. But I don't think any topic is specifically off limits.
Especially when you come at it with a sense of compassion and understanding. I mean, we certainly, Unpregnant is a book that is, a little irreverent and has its extreme sensibilities, but it also, I think we both felt it was important to feel like it had a good heart. It wasn't it wasn't being purposely mean-spirited or crass. It's always in the service of getting the story to actually break down the taboos of the topic, not create more of them.
Okay, perfect, guys. Now we are going to go to the last question before finishing this amazing live with you. And we're going to close with the best question. What can you tell us about your next project? About Save Steve?
Save Steve.
Save Steve.
Steve. It is another friendship story. Another irreverent friendship story. Ted, do you want to? Ted, I feel like Ted, who goes just.
This is a story about two. It's about two boys. Well, the story is about a young high school junior who is kind of enamored with. He's a kind of activist, very woke, very involved young man. Saving everything. And he is enamored with this other young girl who is also kind of doing this. In the United States, we describe her as similar to Michelle Obama, or you could think of like Greta Thunberg, somebody who is very just engaged and passionate, and he's just enamored with her, but he can't find a way to ask her out. And he's looking for this perfect moment to do it. And then he finds out that she's dating his nemesis, this guy who is kind of a proto frat dude, who is more of a prankster and is not involved in any of these causes.
Everything he doesn't want to be, basically.
Everything he doesn't want to be, and he can't believe she's dating him. He's so demoralized that she's dating him until he finds her in the hallway at high school in tears, and he can't. And he figures, oh, this guy Steve broke up with her, but no, she finds out that Steve has cancer, and our protagonist is at first surely shocked by this, but then sees an opportunity that maybe if he helps save Steve, he can win her heart. and we win back the girl of his dreams by being the best guy out of the two of them. And so it goes on this insane journey of fundraising to save this guy who hates him.
Which, I mean, it's a terrible idea. Like, we like to take characters who maybe aren't like thinking things through as much as they should, who have a lot of flaws, and he's doing something that's it's just a bad idea. But
and Steve, of course, knows exactly what he's doing. This character is doing, and goes about tormenting him in the process as he's raising money for him. And so it's a love triangle story, and it plays on the tropes of the kind of like Cancer, sick-lit, Fault in Our Stars, 5 Feet Apart stories of love in the time of illness. And it's very, irreverent and good-spirited as Unpregnant is.
Right. Yeah, we like to play with tropes.
Nice.
Go ahead.
Guys, okay, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being on the other side and for giving us some time to know you more. We can't wait to see the movie this year. We are very excited about it. We can't wait to read the new book, and it's awesome to have you in book with us. Guy, I will go for the Spanish for a second. Chicos, pueden conseguir Unpregnant, lo pueden encontrar en amabook.es/Unpregnant, así que ahí en el chat tienen el link. El libro ya está disponible en España, en América Latina, como contaban Jenni y Ted, este año vamos a tener la adaptación cinematográfica que ya está casi lista, que va a salir por HBO Max, aún no hay fecha confirmada, y este live lo van a poder encontrar subtitulado muy pronto en las redes de Floqq.com. Guys, is there something that you want to say to your readers?
Oh my gosh, thank you for reading the book. It's incredible. I'm just amazed that anybody like reads something that we wrote. So thank you.
Definitely, much thanks to you, and we really appreciate any thoughts you have. We're always excited to hear from our readers, and especially the readers that are outside of our experience. It's great. It's amazing for us, and we're learning all the time from them.
Okay, guys, thank you very much, and see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.